Hello everybody. So I've been a little MIA, right? I was traveling and then I think then last week I ain't have it, and I promise I'm gonna get better. I'm working on it. I swear to you. Anyway, welcome back to It's All Relative. It's me, your girl Sherelle, where we talk about topics, everyday life topics, and I just give my relly spin. So I hope everybody's doing well. So I'm going to tell you what was going on, what I did. I went to see I went to a Beyonce concert and I had a good time. It was we went to Tampa, so I got a chance to see some family and spend a little quality time. And I went there with Judy and her god sister. So it was a good time. I got to see Bryson before he went off to his big move. Bryson is now a Bostonian, where they say ma, ka, ba, what happens in Boston. And so, just a little good family time. It felt good to be with the kids. They're silly. And I got a little time to be by the beach, and that was exciting. What else? I mean, the Beyonce concert was good, but can I tell you how Amazon had played with me and everything like that there? I ordered my outfit. It was due to come 2 days before I left, and guess what happened? My outfit did not come. So you know what I had to do? I had to improvise. I was out there, and let me tell you something. The fupa was fupaing, okay? She was showing out a little bit, you know what I mean? I was hanging with the little young girls. It was a good time. So that happened. But today I know. Here's what happened. I was watching TGIF, and it really is like my favorite show. It takes like my love for Wendy, the Wendy show. She was messy, she was informative, it was fun, it was light, and they went away. Wendy went away. She's not doing so well, and I hope that she does better, and I hope that she's able to come back and give us the podcast that she said that she was going to give us. But there was a void, and TGIF is what filled it. So I was watching TGIF. Claudia Jordan was doing a little talking and sharing, and a lot of people were commenting that they were experiencing a lot of the same things that Claudia was experiencing. And what is that? Absentee parents. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about absentee parents and how it affects us. So I wanted to start off with, you have to excuse my dog. I cannot. She wants all of my love and attention and affection, and I cannot. Amina, I cannot pet you right now. Jolie, please come and get her. I'm telling you, the life of a working mom. So now, the quote, family is not defined by blood, but by those who show up when you need them most. And I agree with that. I think that that is true. Some of the people in my life that I love more than anything in this life are not my blood relatives, nor have they been my blood relatives ever, right? Like my grandfather that I love and adore. He was not my biological grandfather, but that doesn't change anything between he and I. And I know without a shadow of a doubt that that man loved me beyond, right? So there's that. All right. So Claudia shared that she went to, that she was living her life, and she recognized that her father had like a family, like he had a barbecue, and her brother were not invited. And Claudia's in her 50s, and she said that she cried a little bit. And so when I was looking at all of the comments, everybody was talking about me too. I experienced the same thing. He, ain't around, and it still hurts today. And, I had an absentee parent, right? Like my dad was not around, and that definitely caused issues for me. So I thought we'd dive in a little bit and chit and chat. I can tell you that one incident that sticks out the most to me, Higher Learning. I'm going to date myself. Y'all know I'm 43 and very proud of it. So Higher Learning had just come out when you had to go to the movie theater to see the thing, and the line was wrapped around like the mall or whatever. And so we're inside, and I'm with my girlfriends, and I see my dad and his girlfriend, but they have her daughter with them, who happens to be, I think she was like a year or two younger than me. And I realized, I realized that, I wasn't even aware of how I felt about that situation. Like I can look at it today and remember feelings that I had, but it came up and then I suppressed it and pushed it down. And what I was thinking, it would have been nice if he had called me to say, it would have been nice for him to call and ask me if I wanted to go. And he didn't. And so I just remember going, how come he didn't want me to go? Right? Like that initially. And then I just was like, nope, you know what? No problem. Whatever. I'm here with my people. But when I really break that down, that man, right, was with his girlfriend who, again, has children or had a child close to my age. Nobody ever thought like, hey, you got a kid, you want to hang out with her? Nope. Nobody thought that. And so what that caused for me internally was feeling like I wasn't good enough, right? I had to question why my dad wasn't around. And I'll tell you this, through lots of therapy and education, I have learned children are egocentric, right? And so what do I mean by that? Children don't have a way of explaining the things around them, right? So they think about themselves, right? So whatever's going on, they then internalize that. And so for me, when I was younger, that's exactly what I did. My dad was not around and I could not understand why he was around. And so the only thing that I could say was, well, I guess it's me. And if I would have been better, if I was better, my dad would be around. He would come, he'd want to be around me. And that's not necessarily the case, right? But that was a seed that was planted and it grew, and just situations in my life continued to water that seed. But the thing that I would say is that that's not the case, right? Like it's not true. We tell ourselves a story. And so at 5, I began telling myself that story, that it was about me. And the truth of the matter was, it's about him, right? And I can say that now, I can understand that now. But again, that took a really long time for me to understand that about my dad. And, the truth of the matter is, when you think about the absentee parent, sometimes, again, we tell ourselves stories. He doesn't love me. Or, I say he because that was my case. And so if it happens to be, a mother for you, then, let it apply. But in my instance, I told myself, well, he doesn't love me. And a long time I told myself that, like, he doesn't love me. And I think I told myself that because it eased the pain, right? Like the rejection. And I don't even know that it was rejection. Maybe let's say abandonment, but I didn't have the words. I didn't know what to call it. But, the fact that he chose everything else, in my opinion, from my viewpoint, he chose everything else other than me. Why didn't he miss me? How come he wasn't trying to spend time with me? And it also got to the point that I didn't really want to spend time with him. I didn't know him, right? Like he was a stranger. So the truth of the matter, he might have said, hey, want to come hang out? And I'd have been like, because I didn't know him. We didn't have that relationship. And that was hard for a little while, and I'm sure for him, if I were to put myself in his shoes, which I'm able to do today, maybe it's embarrassing, and maybe he didn't know what to do with a little girl. You know what I mean? And also, here's this. I also think that it has more to do, hey, Em, it has more to do with them and their relationship with the other parent, right? Like I've been in relationship and had experiences. I mean, like, we keep it real around here. I'm gonna just be honest. My children's fathers didn't want children with me. They didn't want children, and they didn't want children with me, right? Like, and I'm clear on that and clear about that. And, we could have that conversation later on about what happens when a woman gets pregnant and who has to do what, right? It was my decision. And so maybe they felt like I'm gonna do what I gotta do, but it was what to me in my eyes feels like the bare minimum. They did their every other weekend. They paid their child support, and that was that. And I can say that today because I also can tell you the difference that I saw when they had children that they wanted and with the women they wanted them with. They treated my children very differently than they treated those children. So I understand that, right? As the adult, I can go, oh, okay. And I can put the pieces together, which is also what freed me up to not want to kill, maim, and beat the other parent. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. So, listen, a lot of us are struggling with the issues of absentee parents, and we're not even aware of it. We're not even aware of how it shows up in our lives. Like I said to you, it took a long time. I just knew that I thought I wasn't good enough. And so I just carried that with me. And like I have said before, I put on a front. I had decided one day I was going to fake it till I made it and feel better. But internally, the conversation that I was having was, you're not good enough, which is why I was a people pleaser. Anytime somebody would offer something and throw something on my plate, Sherelle, can you do this? Would you help me with that? All of this stuff. And I had to prove I was so much so, oh, you need somebody to do it? I'll do it. Because I had to prove that I was good enough, and I wasn't proving it to anyone else. I was proving it to myself, right? That's how it showed up for me. And I wasn't able to understand where that came from. And here's this. Let me get clear. I am not blaming my dad for my life, because here's the thing, right? We have got to heal ourselves. That's our responsibility. So I can't go around bleeding and acting up on other people when somebody else cut me, right? So I cannot share with people and yell and holler and do all manners of tomfoolery, right? With bad behavior and acting out because my dad wasn't there, because I thought I wasn't good enough. That's my job to deal with that. So that's the case. And if at any time someone, right, like you're struggling, you're not clear about how that is showing up in your life and you would like to know, or you're questioning, or you're thinking it might be the case, let a girl know, hit me up. I'm around. You know what I'm saying? And again, talking about the absentee parent. So I'll use my dad as an example. That man loves me. I'm clear on that. I'm sure of that. I'm positive about that. Amina, no. I'm sorry. Jolie, please take her out. Sorry guys. Listen, this is what you get when you with me. It's live, right? We out here in these streets, and I got dogs and animals, and they all need me. I'm probably an absentee parent to my dog, but we ain't gonna talk about that right now, okay? And I gotta remind her that I love her. He loves me. But when I think about it, he was 25. No, my dad was 20, he was 24, turning 25. He had a difficult relationship with my mom. And so part of that, I think he saw having to deal with her in order to get to me. He just didn't want to be bothered. He didn't. And he also didn't have capacity. I don't think my dad knew how to be a dad. He wasn't, and he didn't have a dad. So what did he know? Right. And my dad is, he's very rigid. He's very rigid in his thinking. He's very rigid in his actions. So he didn't know. He didn't have it. He didn't have it. And that's the thing. Being a parent, we don't sign any papers. We don't take any classes. We just make babies and we do the best that we can. Like when I think about it, I don't know how anybody let me leave that hospital with a sickly baby at 17 years old. Y'all was a mess. You hear me? To allow that. They didn't know what was going to happen. You kind of cross your, your fingers, close your eyes, and you hope for the best. Like that's all you got. So he didn't know. Am I making excuses for him? No. Could he have done better? Yes. Right? Like all of those things. But again, I had to get to that place where I understood that about him. And so, and here's the thing, my dad lived he lived around. Poughkeepsie is 4 square miles. He lived in Poughkeepsie my whole entire life. So he could have been no more than 10 minutes driving, right, from me. And he was very active in other people's lives. right? Like he's a karate guru and he would go to other kids' schools and check on them and all this other stuff. And so watching all of that again, it's like, man, again, what's wrong with me, right? So even though that message subliminally had been planted, it was reinforced. And again, I don't think that he was conscious of his actions. You know what I'm saying? Again, I don't think he was like, oh, that must really suck for her. That must really hurt for her. He just wasn't thinking about it. He wasn't thinking about the impact that it would have on me. And he just maybe doesn't have that chip. And I can't today be mad at him for not having that chip. You know what I'm saying? And some people don't. And so Claudia talked about her dad who, you know, has never really been a part of her life. Like, and again, would have an event and not invite her. And, you know, so some people can go, oh my God, like, how can he live with himself? He's probably struggling. He could be. He could be struggling and he could be embarrassed. How do you call your child and talk to your child and hear everything that your child has to say and all the issues that they experienced because you weren't there? That's a lot. And a lot of people can't face that music. So instead of it, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to act like it doesn't exist. They detach. And it's easier to detach and and to act as though that doesn't exist. Easier to do that than it is to face the music, right? So, you know, my dad faced the music. I was bold enough and it took a lot of time. I had the conversations. I needed him to look into these brown eyes and I needed him to know and understand the hurt that I felt, abandonment that I felt, like all of it. He needed to know all of it. And it took time because, you know, I was raised where there was a time when, you know, children, you couldn't speak to your parents in a certain way. It didn't matter how old you were, but I definitely was in my 20s when I began that journey because I just got tired of feeling bad. I just got tired of questioning and I just decided like, nah, I'm over this. So I also think that maybe for yourself, if you're dealing with this, anyone that's dealing with this, it's important to maybe have the conversation so you can free yourself, right? Having those conversations, I promise it's not for them. I get as human nature, we want people to feel as bad as we feel in the moment. I experienced that just recently. Somebody, honey, they tore me up. I was hot. And my initial instinct, I wanted to make them feel exactly the way that I was feeling. That's not the answer, right? Because it's just not the answer, because that only gets you into a back and forth and you trying to hurt one another. And who's got time for that? And you know what? I ain't got time for that. So you know what I do know how to do? Push on with my life so I can do that. So I think it's important to, if you feel like it, have the conversation with them, again, to release yourself of these feelings. Now, there are some people who can't have that conversation with their loved ones or, you know, with their absentee parent. So in that case, I would say write it out. Write out all of the feelings, all of the thoughts, all of the everything. Write it out so that you can express it and get it out. You cannot hold on to that. You can't. It is not serving you well. And I'll be good and goddamned if somebody who wasn't in my life, now I'm going to allow them to affect my life. You know what I'm saying? In ways, you know, that we don't know. You know what I'm saying? When you hold on to all of that frustration and that anger and that hurt, it comes out in different ways at the wrong people. So that's what I mean when I say, you know, somebody cut me and you bleed on other people, because other people experience your wrath and could be in different ways. And you know what? You could be making yourself hurt. You know what I'm saying? And causing yourself drama and pain. Why? For somebody else? Mm-mm. And I'll never say, the other thing is, I'll never say like, oh, you have to, get rid of the anger. Nah. As we've talked about previously, anger is a secondary emotion, right? So something happened, and what is that? Hurt, frustration, again, abandonment. So all of those things cause the anger. And you can use anger to help to motivate you, to fuel you, to push you to accomplish the things that you want to accomplish for you, right? To go and chase your happy. Think about what it is that makes you happy and go after it. And you use all of that. Even if you have to say, well, I'm going to show them, they missed out on me. And, a lot of people said it doesn't ease the pain. No, I don't know maybe that it does, but it can help. And when you can understand why someone did it, then, and have answers, right? That then I think can give you the closure. And so sometimes you just gonna have to make up whatever answer you need to move on with your life. And so you can just say they didn't have capacity. Maybe he just couldn't deal. In my case, I'm saying maybe he just couldn't deal with, facing me. Because as adults, I mean, there are things that you're afraid of. So certainly your parent can be afraid of things, right? We don't know the trauma that they had. And again, not excuses, just giving you understanding. Because I think it's so important that we, are able to see other people's perspectives. You know what I mean? That's helpful. And again, why waste any more of your time worrying about, thinking about, and allowing this person who caused all of the pain and the hurt in your life previously to have any more of it, right? Now, here's this. Me and my dad, we're good now. He is trying, right? He's doing the best he knows how to do. And that's all I could ever ask. You know what I'm saying? I was open to having him be a part of my life. And so he's a part of my life in the way that he can be. My dad's kind of like an uncle, right? I see him. Sometimes I don't see him. He pops in, he pops out. As he's getting older now, he is a little bit more less rigid. So I won't say he's soft, but I'll say he's less rigid. And so he calls, he checks in, and he's doing the very best that he can do. And I acknowledge that. I'm grateful for that. And I don't even have to say it because it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? I've made peace with it, how it goes, what it is. And, you could be open to that too. But I could tell you this, the decision is yours to make. You know what I'm saying? If they are open to trying to mend, allow it, because it might do your heart some good, right? I don't think that anybody ever died from having too much love and too many people caring. And also, I didn't even have this on here, but sometimes shadow work. And what is that? Like, we've got to go to the place that hurt us the most, right? And so what do I say? Sometimes people who experience things like in their younger lives, you got to be able to heal yourself. How do you do that? How do you do the shadow work, Sherelle? Okay, I'm glad you asked. You have to love up on the younger person, like whatever age or person you were at the time that this hurt happened, you have to give them what it is that they need. And how can you do that, right? Like, so for me, I needed somebody to, and not even somebody, I needed my dad. That's the truth. I had love from my mother, from my grandmother, from my grandfather. I needed my dad. And I just, hey, you're all right. You are loved. And I went to where the love was. You know what I'm saying? You are good enough, right? Like, that's what I had to tell myself and believe that. So that's how I did that. Whatever I was missing when I was younger, I go back to that time. And if you don't have that ability and you want to help, you need help trying to get there, let's talk about it. But, for me, whatever I was missing at that age, I can take myself to that time. You want to talk about, the 5-year-old girl? Yep. I can take myself back to that time. Being 14 and seeing my dad, with his other family, if you will, I can take myself right back to that time. And I can say, sis, you all right. And because, I know what life is now, you gonna be all right. You know what I mean? And I give myself that grace because it affected me how it affected me, and I made certain decisions, and that's all right. I'm okay with that because it led me here, right? Grateful for all of that. And I always tell y'all, if my life had been any different, then I'd be different, and I'm really happy with myself. So, I think about the time when I was 17 and, a mom and feeling like Why did it, what did I do? And how am I going to fix it? How am I going to make it? And I go back and I tell her, girl, you all right. And it's going to be all right. And that's the truth. I was all right. You know what I'm saying? So that's the work that I have to do, that I had to do, and that I continue to do. I discover different parts of myself all the time, and I have to check in with myself like, girl, you all right? What's going on over there? And I got to make it all right. And I do. That's why I go to therapy. That's why I talk to my friends. So, if you don't have a tribe and you're looking for someone, come on and holler at your girl. I don't know. Have any of you experienced an absentee parent? And I'll tell you this. Let me give you this. Your parent doesn't have to be outside of the house in order to have been an absentee parent. Because again, sometimes they just didn't have the emotional, they didn't have the emotional capacity to give like that, because maybe nobody gave it to them and maybe they didn't have that. I think about a time when I was really bad in depression, and I felt like somebody just switched the lights off on me, and I felt like I couldn't connect with my kids. Like I felt weird holding their hands, and I felt weird giving them hugs. And that was just, my depression showing up in different ways. And that's how it works for me. And so that's when I was like, ooh, there's a problem. And I went straight away to the good therapy, because I said, there's a problem here and I don't like this. And I had to work to change that. And there's nothing wrong with that. And that's why I share the way that I do, because if I experience that, maybe there are some other people that experience that, and I'm just not afraid to share it. It's okay. You're all right. Nothing's wrong with you. You know what I'm saying? So, what have we talked about tonight? We have talked about an absentee parent. We have talked about how it affects our lives, as adults, sometimes how it can show up being egocentric as children, and not being able to understand the way in which life comes at us. Because as children, we don't have introspection and reflection. It just is what it is. And the only way we know how to make sense of it is we internalize it. That's just it. We talked about telling ourselves stories. It is important not to tell yourself a story, right? So yes, as adults now, your parent may not have been there, but what I can assure you is that it had nothing to do with you at all. It's not about you. It never was. It could have been about them. It was about them. It could have been about the way that they felt about your other parent. A lot of things. Does it excuse the behavior? Absolutely not. Are you the reason for it? Absolutely not. And I don't give a good goddamn. I don't care what you did. You could have burned down their very favorite whatever. Free yourself, honey. Okay? Let me tell you that. Free yourself. It wasn't about you. There's nothing that you can do that would make a parent not love you. Just isn't. And so don't tell yourself that. Your parent, they love you. They do. And even if they said they don't, right? Like I think about Kenya Moore, and she talked about her mother. I definitely think in that situation with Kenya Moore, there's something missing. I think that everybody else knows what happened to her, that she just wants to erase it. I believe that, I don't know this for certain, but I believe there was something going on. 2 + 2 in that situation equals 17. And that is why that woman does not want anything to do with Kenya. However, it also reinforces what I'm telling you. It has nothing to do with Kenya. It's not about Kenya. It's about what happened prior to her birth, prior to her conception. That's what that's about. And that's why that woman don't want nothing to do with her. And everybody knows. And I wish they'd just tell her. If they would tell Kenya, that would free her, because she's told herself a story. And what she told herself was, I'm not good enough. And that's why my mom doesn't want anything to do with me. It's not that. It's not that. It is always, 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 always about the parent, and never an excuse. Never an excuse. But sometimes it just explains things, right? When 2 + 2 = 17, it's because something is missing. And when you get the missing piece, you're able to digest it. It goes down a little smoother. You could say, yeah, that's fucked up, right? But you understand it. I cannot like somebody. Somebody have done something to me. I cannot like them, but I can understand why they did it. I can go, I get it. I hear that. There are people right now that can't stand me. If I said hello to them, they would go completely off. Now, while I think that's funny, right, to give somebody that much power, because that is what it is. I have all the power in my hands. And any time that I want to act up, and I'm the puppet master. If you are so upset that I say hi to you, that you would go off, that means I'm in control of you. And unfortunately, I know that now. I choose not to use that. I choose not to use that, but it is what is possible. It could happen. I say that. I'm going back because I went left and now I'm going to come right. So I say that to say, it's not about me, right? Like, not that it's not about me. It's about me. I've done something. They don't like me, but I understand why. That's what I'm saying, right? They don't like me and I understand why. And I'm okay with that. That's all right. And again, I told y'all, I'm comfortable being the villain in somebody else's story. It's all right. And I also told y'all, listen, people, experience many different sides of me. And you could ask 5 different people about me and get 5 different stories and believe them all. I'm okay with that too. But it's not about you, right? So just know that if you feel compelled and you just want to get it off your chest, then share with them. Face them and tell them, right? Hey, you caused me this hurt in this way. Now, be prepared, right? Because when you tell someone, well, this happened, that happened, this happened, that happened, and it's all your fault, be prepared for them to be defensive. So they might not embrace you with open arms and say, oh, thanks so much. I'm so glad that you told me that. Like, that's not always going to be the case. They might go, F you, and you did da 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 da, right? So you can make it about the thing if you're comfortable. And if you feel like you don't want to have conversation with them, you don't want to share with them what happened, you can always write it out because, you can write a letter and then maybe you could mail it to them if you feel so compelled, just so you got it off your chest and you know that they got it. Or you could burn it, and release it from yourself, but holding on to it is not going to serve you well, right? And the other part we talked about is anger. You can use your anger towards that individual, towards your absentee parent, to fuel you and to do all the things and chase your dreams and your aspirations. You know what I'm saying? So that can be the case as well. You just can't hold on to it forever. It's but for a short period of time. It's for a time, and then you got to let it go because, again, that's not going to serve you well. And overall, if you're struggling with that, you want to talk about it, let's do it. Give me a call. You know what I'm saying? Like, get in my DM. I got my email, like all those things. I got a website, do all the things. Okay. All right. Thanks. And so I thought I'd make it a series. So what we're going to talk about next week is how the absentee parent affects the other parent. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you for watching, for staying with me. I know I didn't do any announcements or any of that stuff, but I appreciate you for rocking with me. You guys are the best. I love you, love you, love you, and I will see you guys next week. Bye!